Yeah, wild thing. Yeah, wild thing. I like to do that. Wild thing. Help weeds grow. They tend to help weeds grow. They grow like a weed. They tend to help weeds grow. Okay, let's go. Shit. I love the, if I may be kind of like one of those foodie cooking YouTube channels, I'm going to talk that way about my bodies and my activities out here. It's like, I love the rustic nature of 2 feet. Cooking is simple, or walking is simple. You simply put one foot in front of the other. See? Foot, other foot, other foot, other foot. Try it yourself. No, I like, people ride, they drive. I love, you do tend to love, of course, if you need to go somewhere quickly, but I love walking. If, you find a way to enjoy where you're walking. You got your food, you got the right clothing. People talk about, there's all these YouTube channels like, what equipment do you bring? You know, and they have these like catchy little hooks, like the worst mistakes that new backpackers or hikers make. I'm like, first off, let's be clear about terms. Technically, I'm not really a hiker. I'm a day walker. I'm a wayfarer. I'm a witch. I'm not a backpacker or hiker. I mean, hikers have goals like going up mountains, snowshoeing, getting out and getting some fresh air for a few hours, going home, going to the lodge, having some cocoa, and fucking like nymphs, right? But not me. No, I like to go for a walk. It's that simple. I don't have a goal. I'm not going to purloin anyone's loins while I'm out here. I'm not making any money. I do plan on generating a good deal of money in my life, but I don't need to know how just yet. All I need to know is that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Ah, people, you ever find that if you search around, or if you don't, people who are afraid of the following types of things, whether you want to look at it in terms of cultural anthropology or just things that excite your own imminent sense of immediate doom, or your sense of imminent doom, or your immediate sense of imminent doom, or your preeminent sense that specters of considerable doom even now are lurking among the shadows of your life, and so on. Things that people are afraid of hurting, the government, vaccines. I'm not undermining any of these things, by the way. I think it's possible to undermine a lot of reasonable concerns by simply just blanketly saying, you either have to say that vaccines are the most evil thing in the world, or which they may well be, and if only because humans, forget who's doing what. Like, you're accountable to yourself. I mean, people do a lot of things for all the right reasons. They do a lot of bad things for all the right reasons. So just if you're wondering about a counter argument to vaccines and say, oh, they're amazing, they're amazing. Well, it doesn't matter how amazing anything humans do is. It can still be bad for you. It's just reasonable. Humans do a lot of things that end up to be very bad for them because everyone thinks it's the right thing. And important people tell you it's the right thing. Humans just have lots of different, you're at your job, if you're in a group of 3 people, there are dynamics, right? I bet you're more honest talking to me by yourself than when you're with your family in some respects. But you might be more honest with your family than you are with me. You might be more honest with yourself than you are with anyone else. So what humans say affects how you think, and how you think affects what you say, and what you feel safe saying and what you feel safe thinking about. So if I couch an argument like, you should stay away from vaccines because the lizards are going to suck your brains out, right? It doesn't give you room to think. Unless you already be like, no, no, man, that opens me up to a whole new realm of fear. Thank you so much. It explains everything in life. And so these tend to be very small types of discussions. And I think to myself, like, my aim in life as a communicator is not to make people afraid, but it's to communicate. I love to be free to say whatever I want, but I also have to understand that humans, the least hypothetically, the widest possible audience is not going to want to hear things that, being as difficult as they are not finding their way to appeal or persuade them in a way that tells them that it's worth their time. Because it doesn't give them the space to think. We might talk about, oh, no one thinks for themselves, but you have to give someone the space to think for themselves. Not just teachers and governments, but also me and you. Here's my mother's altar. There. An altar to my mother. Isn't that beautiful? Nobody even knows it's there. It's so beautiful. Like her. The two trees coming out of the stump are like me and my mom. I'm sure my dad is out here somewhere too. So to go back to our discussion here and having talked about how we discuss things and whether or not they're going to seem worth discussing to other people, but also that however you find yourself couching anything about your fears, you don't owe it to anybody to limit or bind yourself to what anyone or everyone or anyone can understand or wants to. That is also true, right? You might have the greatest truth in the world, no one gets it, and who gives a fuck? It's important, though, sometimes to prioritize saying something as opposed to limiting saying something to what someone near you can understand. That's why being by yourself is sometimes better than being around others. If you're in a classroom and you're in sex education, so does anyone here not know how it feels to slide your penis into a vagina? Raise your hands now, right? And you're probably not going to want to do that. Unless, of course, you're thinking, hey, maybe he's asking because he's going to acquaint us with that experience. Well, my daughter Lucy is here, and thank you for raising your hand, Lennon. You may go into the back room and or boudoir and acquaint yourself with such a luscious experience as I'm sure many of your fellow students are going to be exceedingly jealous of you. I see Nancy over there has a thing for you. She's seeming quite steamy right now. Nancy, if you want to go back there too and have some fun, Landon, Vanessa, are you okay with that? Sure. Tracy, good. This is women piling up here. Look, I want you to get as much pussy as you can before the next bell. The rest of you, we've got a test. It's not on biology, it's actually on socioeconomics and the Keynesian model. I know none of you know anything about that, but if you don't pass it, you're going to fail. What? Pussy or this? Wish I'd raised my hand. Are there any of you who'd like to raise your hand? Again, any of you here who have not slid your penis into a beautiful vagina? All of you? Too late. You horny fucks. So, talking, using your voice. That's how the brain works. Out here, I'm using my body, 2 feet, and I'm talking. My brain is working. My brain is working really well. So, humans, if we word this carefully, humans have fears of things. Doesn't mean they're wrong, doesn't mean they're right. But if someone thinks that an earthquake's going to come one day and kill everyone, there's the fear component to that. Maybe not the fear you have when you're going to a job for the first time, or not the fear you have having to face a police officer, but it is a fear. A general fear, an academic fear, but a fear nonetheless. Because you know that if an earthquake happened, people are going to shit themselves. You know, everything's really nice until, the ground turns into liquid and everyone loses all of their homes. So, just ask anyone from the Philippines, where they live in these beautiful little shacks, uninterested in the fact that tsunamis tend to hit there every 2 or 3 years. I love it. It's like, it won't come. Our gods protect us. So what that tells us, if they're not stupid, is that humans are engaged in ways where fears may exist, but they have to tune them out, right? We don't always get to all our fears. Something might happen, you think, fuck, I knew that was going to happen. And if you sit down with yourself, what are all the fears I can protect myself? Do you have an earthquake kit in your car? What about the tsunami? What about the comet? What about a plane coming down from the sky? Children, this is that moment we prepared for. The jumbo jet is coming down into our neighborhood. Quick, get into the underground tunnel system. We'll come back and loot our neighbors in about 2 days. Great. Thanks, Dad. Get on your cat burglar uniforms. You know, you obviously planned. Next thing you find out is that you have a friend who works as a mechanic at the airline who threw a bit of a monkey wrench into the operation by pulling out critical components in the instrumentation and flight control. Okay, well, that's going a bit too far, but you see, you know, there are people, if they're smart enough and demonic enough in a way, or diabolical enough, that can exploit human fears and exploit human tragedy. So it's like, it's a difficult area. Like, humans can be afraid of a lot of things. How many things do you hear ever that involve any kind of fear? Humans are destroying the earth. Okay, now there's a few things kind of packed into there. Passive aggression packs on information. It's not talking about humans destroying each other. It's not talking about the influences of modern survival and financial and cultural imperatives, such as they are often massed together as one overwhelming urge to do whatever the fuck you need to survive, and even then it costs you your life. Okay? And then to somehow contend with what humans can do to each other under those conditions. Right? It's just man blights the earth, man sucks the oil, man destroys the mountains. Man also blows channels through the Rocky Mountains and makes a fucking railroad so you can go on your vacation to fucking humpback fucking whale bozo Iowa, right? You can go from New York to fucking California in 1950 on a fucking train. You know? So now we're covering different spectrums of the argument. Destroying nature. You ever stepped on a spider? You ever dug a hole, for fuck's sake? You had a house, you have to cut down a couple trees, for fuck's sake? To me, my point of view is, nature is here. Man is here. Do what you gotta fucking do. But isn't it great, whatever you gotta do, before you blast the mountain, before you send 10,000 Chinese to lose their lives on the side of the mountain, to sit back in all your industrial fucking wealth, in all your obedience to those who wield such a wealth and or essential competence enough to be able to tell you what to do, because you only earn 10 cents a fucking day and you have the education of a snail. But you can pound a fucking railway line in one fucking rail every 5 fucking minutes. And if you don't, you'll get fucking fired and head home with your hat in your hands, and your wife will kick you out and you'll be walking around like a poor dude. And when you're a poor dude back then, you were fucking nothing. You were hanging your head. You were coming to the back of various shops and saying, can I sweep your fucking bathroom floor for like 10 cents a day? Because I've lost everything, you know? It was like very humiliating. And so humans are very proud of their jobs. They don't want to be jobless. We've been schooled, taught, groomed, exploited, and impoverished and plagued so much. You want your fucking job, don't you? You want your fucking latte in the morning. You want to, quote, support yourself. Right? And in the course of all of this incredible marshalling of human labor, to think that you can then convince people that they're environmentally friendly when they're barely aware of their children's middle names while they're busy going through life. They're not aware of their children's feelings. None of one of their children, finally dropped their left testicle because they didn't know it hadn't descended yet. They just don't know things about their children, right? So having the time to just do all the fucking amazing shit we can do, dig, build, bomb, whatever you got to do, right? But then have the time to think about it, to come to a parcel of 4 acres and go, hi trees, camp out one night. Oh, there's squirrels here. Oh look, a bear comes through here once a year. Oh look, certain time of year you get deer hopping forth. There's some rabbits. There's some mycelium. Oh, it looks like forests have been growing here for 1 million years. You see what there's like an oil deposits down here. There are mineral rights to be considered. Did you know this is a microclimate? Hell, you can grow whatnot whizzlets here that no one else in the world has seen since fucking David Oliver, David Attenborough, and what's his name? Charles Darwin, fucking studying hard things getting erect and smaller again every year and calling it evolution. Like the ice caps get bigger and smaller every year, and it's called climate change, right? It's just different ways that magic and language can be used, and a sense of time and a sense of imminent doom, right? That pushes you into that chronic, right? Or chronological or Saturnalian, like poised on the edge of doom. Man labors to understand. by giving all of his flesh and blood to his creators, how best to preserve his ongoing doom as a glorified peon, so as not to have the last bit of shame erased from the face of the earth in one gigantic wave of meteoric tsunamis, cataclysm after cataclysm, and depressions for which no man can prepare. So you're being managed through your fear. Doesn't mean it's wrong, doesn't mean it's right. You start doling out your sense of self-determination to any number of industrial agencies, and how can you really say you're supporting yourself anymore? You've just gone from one ostensibly or theoretically doom-laden environment, tenting in the woods, to another one, where every year millions of people get diagnosed with a cancer that isn't even cancer, it's industrial poisoning, but no fucking doctor in the world will tell you that. Polio, cancer, AIDS, these are all autoimmune disorders. You're septic. Because in order to do all this, your body has to learn to absorb and truck and exchange in the currency of pure fucking poison. There's no wonder we're fucking biting each other's heads off every other day. There's no wonder that someone can say hi in the morning and you feel like one of those testicles that drop is just going to fall right off. Or your semen count's going to go down because your girlfriend is menstruating. It's not right. Domestic abuse to me is the number one cause, combined with what medicine and the medical world as a culture and as a financial imperative must resort to doing in the interpretation of your bodily responses to any number of environmental conditions. And it's not, hey, you need a break from your castrating wife or your abusive husband or the father or mother who fucking doled you out to a babysitter who wanted to fuck you up the ass every other day. There's no fucking cure for that shit. But they'll give you chemotherapy for it if you want. Therapy is the opposite of what you think, right? They're going to put you into hypnosis. They're not going to deal with anything. It's the opposite. It's barbaric, right? Religion ends up exploiting your vulnerabilities. And then it leaves you in a world that's going to soften the next generation up to be exploited even more. Right? It's a septic, winterized world, right? Endless debt, the endless vacuum of space, the endless deep, dark pit of all imminent and increasingly imminent dangers. The more you have to work, the less you can make. You keep your head down and don't fucking look at that horizon we're all fucking working for is getting farther and farther the fuck away. Unless we become more and more fucking delusional. And it, in separation from our mothers and fathers and what our own fucking eyes were supposed to do. Starting in a loving environment from whence they could develop a lot better than any fucking education is supposed to help you with, depriving you of your mother and father, so that the time that you spend there can be critically seen as quite unworthy of you, in that it has excluded in many different orders of philosophies of the world, all ostensibly to help you satisfy various industrial and or biological imperatives, from those around whom your brain would develop the best. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Doesn't make any fucking sense. Now sure, do as the Romans do, but you've got to find fucking time to think about it. You gotta find fucking time to think about what you're doing. When you go to build your house, you spend some time with the fucking squirrels. You tell your children, hey, I left that tree there because I know the fucking squirrels love that tree. And I put your bedroom window right there so you can open it one day and feed them. And you'd have this great fucking relationship with the worlds around you. Instead of going, hey, bulldoze all this fucking shit, sell the lumber. I'm going to hire an architect to build an ugly fucking home just like all these other fucking ugly homes, and we're going to stay there 3 days of the fucking year. And the rest of the time it's going to sit there like some godforsaken fucking mausoleum to the human spirit. Gardened by Jose and Cleopatra every other week, who are making a damn good fucking living off of your grass and shrubs, so the neighbors don't fucking kick you out of the local fucking strata council. Fuck me. I've lived in rich areas next to people who are never there, but you see the gardeners coming and going. You know, they straddle and they manipulate and they monopolize the coastlines of Vancouver Island. I was walking along the coastline. This happens from time to time, and it's worth studying. It's not. There's components to it. I was walking along the coastline under the high tide, and this young man and woman on a promontory of wood that's across the street from the house there, who probably own a little bit of the frontage, right? And I think sometimes it's a bit of a gray area, right? And I'm with someone, and they're like, get off our fucking property. get away, huh? This is ours. It's not. But what's happened is they're claiming the psychological space. Just like, let's say you had a timeshare in some private beach in Barbados, and some hairy dude with his penis hanging out of his shorts was walking by on ostensibly federal land, beneath Titanic, and you're like, get the fuck out of here. You don't care about whether it's right or not. You just don't want to see him because you don't usually, and you've paid a lot to be here, right? That's psychological space, right? Right? But because you haven't had that time to gain that poise, even though your family might have a certain amount of economic leverage, it's lost the ability to enjoy it, right? An artifact of which would be a kind of judicious way of discriminating between right and wrong, and not just yours, but other people's comfort in walking along a coastline, as we were, perfectly lawful fashion, quietly to ourselves, and could have just enjoyed hearing a couple people muttering between themselves for a while or two, and passing on their way like a couple of deer. But their response is like getting a shotgun and firing it off, verbally. And this has happened to me several times. Now, sometimes there's more reasons, sometimes there's less. It can be based on bad experiences they have in the past. But at the same time, you can tell that, experience or not, they are disposed to an extremely aggressive response to circumstances that pose no imminent threat to them, and aren't, in fact, things which warrant such behavior. So the idea of property really isn't quite sound in the way it's currently practiced in the economic system. One of the big things I'll tell you, and it'll be hard for people to understand this, is that white people, in every sense, meaningful sense, don't own anything, okay? Now hear me out. White people don't own anything. They don't own anything. They are owned. Right? They feel like they own things. Number two, white people really feel like they own things. Okay? We're not making a value judgment on this, right? But they don't. In the economic system, you don't own your house, right? But you feel as though you do. Now that feeling is important. I want you to tune into that feeling and how convinced you are you own your house and you own your car and what that means to you. How would you defend that if you had to? It's like, oh, it's mine. I clean it, I maintain it, I know it inside and out. I change the carburetor every other year. I love it. I have a relationship with it. I dream about it. I know how to speak its English and all those things. It's there for me. I maintain it. It's there for me. It's there for me. It's there for me. I love it. And that's how I know it. That's how I own it. And that's how humans own things, by caring about them. Right? You just don't just own your home because you have a document. You own it because you care about it. You own it because it's yours. And it homes your children. And it houses your children. And it keeps you safe at night. And you love your fucking home. You don't go to sleep at night. You don't want your children going to sleep at night. God, we cut down a cherry tree to build our house. I think I'm going to flagellate myself. Right? And that's building a very negative dynamic. What your children could say, we took and grafted some of the cherry tree over into an orchard over here to preserve the long life of an incredibly generous fruitfulness, which we have come to enjoy over generations, right? It's a whole other way to go now, right? You see what I mean? Thoughtfulness. Thoughtfulness works for you. Thoughtfulness makes your home safer and more sound. Then it's, yes, it's a roof overhead, but it's a fucking school then, isn't it? It's a fucking church of knowledge. So, anyway, getting quite passionate. I try to translate my negative experiences into knowledge. Everything that humans do that hurts is full of information. It's full of information. Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh. There we go. Let's go on. That was China. fish. I like that. I want to fish. I want to fish. But be loose about language sometimes. You ever like word games, rearranging letters? I rearrange letters and words all the time, right? Rearrange letters, see if you can find other meanings. Because I guarantee you, your subconscious already has, right? Words mean a lot more. Like, you should get used to looking at a word and knowing that the way it is spelled or the way it is sounded out does not just have one connotation. You know that certain words have multiple meanings. You know that words, at least in certain languages, can be used in different contexts and mean completely different things. If someone asks me how I'm doing and I say hi, it's a little ambiguous, right? So you understand that. We understand that. You may not think to yourself every day, I think about that every day, but if I mention it, you understand it. You understand things that you haven't even thought about, because your subconscious is able to make these decisions, right? If you say, how you doing, and I say hi, your subconscious goes, what an interesting fellow. I think he has some weed. Or, I don't think he totally understands the English language. I better avoid this psycho. So you make decisions based on what people say and the energy that fills their words. If I come up to you and say, hello, you may feel like I'm being belligerent. You might want to leave. So, the solution to the problem is to say hi to me. So be rearranging words and letters and sounds all the time when you have the leisure to do so. You don't need word games to do that. Take anything. Tree. Well, you notice that the center of the word tree, by the way, look philologically, a lot of words, a lot of their root information is not, you can sort of get rid of, shave off sometimes, consonants from the beginning and the end. Right? Not always, but it's one thing you can do. So you take tree and you shave off T and E, right? What do you get? You get the word for the sun, which is ray. You get the first consonant sound or syllable of religion, of reality. Why do you think that is? In the center of religion is lig. I have no idea what that means, by the way. And you've got the word jinn. That's like other spirits, right? Criminality, the criminal justice system. Right? I'm not breaking these words down. I'm just saying that if you rearrange and look at different syllables in these words, you can root around. Now it's going to be silly. It's not going to make sense. Like, oh, it's stupid. Just ice, just us, right? But you will find things. I guarantee. You will find things. You'll find interesting things, right? Rhea in Greek mythology is the mother of the gods, right? The mother of the Olympian gods, who are lymph, right? Because they're all transsexual, right? I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying the Greek hero is transsexual. Transsexuality is built into the root of culture, not so much as it's happened literally through time, but so much as what we consider time-based anthropology has been interpolated into what we call anthropology and therefore reality. And therefore, language and knowledge have changed our idea of time by populating it with things that only exist there because we believe they do, and that's what we've been taught. Greece doesn't exist in the past. Egypt doesn't exist. Egypt never existed, as you understand it. It was invented. Greece and Rome were invented. Its fall was invented. These things never really happened, right? Polio never existed, and it was never cured. Jonas Salk was an actor. So was Mark Twain. So was every famous person in the world. Doesn't mean they're not smart people. Einstein was an actor. Doesn't mean he couldn't do math, but he wasn't just a physicist. He might as well have been Mark Twain. You don't know that, right? The crazy hair, things like that, are designed to hide their identity because they wear different masks, just like the gods of the pantheon of Greece and of the theater. And you talk about the theater of war. And what is war about? It's about the word. And the word is made flesh, right? And then I make sounds and I can flesh it out. The Word is made flesh because a female body can actually make the flesh of a child through the powerful syllables and sounds of nature that have taken on our flesh and our flesh together, that flesh which is from our flesh, and our flesh from this flesh of the heavens and the earth, and all that is sounded forth. For what is spirit is made sound, and what is made flesh is sounded by the spirit of creation, and all that is sound. We don't just talk about Allah, but we talk about all things being sound, right? If it is lawful, it is of the soundness of all things. It is of the spirit of everything, the great spirit, right? It's just some dinky fucking law that lines your pockets. That's not the law. It's just something that you've learned to exert over other people in a septic, monetary world, which is just one version of how to deal with reality that we've been yoked to for 1,000 years. X, change. X is gone, G-A-N, which means the fundamental communication of life through time and of the essence of time itself as a spirit made flesh. Time is a spirit. Time has the spirit of things. And essentially, when things are sound, people have all the time in the world. When things are unsound, people are always busy and never have enough time. If you don't have time for your children, then your life isn't sound. If it's not sound, right, you got to find a way to make it sound. And that drives you to go to work, to make money, to make it sound. But it's not sound. And making money is never going to make it sound. Because the whole purpose of money is to keep you off balance. It's based on a whole idea about time and space, where nothing and goes to nothing. And you are born dead and still born. And you draw from that death and the one to come. And the one you're living out by every fucking measure of the day, according to your fucking Gregorian calendar and your fucking clock, which you set because it kills you. And set is of death. It is of the night that divides the day. It is of the day that conquers the night. It's Gnostic Kabbalism. All basic relationships are poised to annihilate each other, one and the other, like Achilles and Agamemnon, right? Like two boxers in the ring. Patriarchy is the elimination and the propping up of the male. So feminists say patriarchy has propped up the male over the female. And not to underestimate or undermine it, I mean, in extraordinarily violent ways articulated through hundreds of years. Dispossessing, raping, harming, and leaving women we say we care about, to be exploited for all the powerful abilities they have to endure and sustain things which we as men cannot. And it's fucking awful. And if you love your mother and you love your daughter and you love your grandma, you want to do anything to fucking end it. Patriarchy is also about propping men up, but it's also about sacrificing them. See, you prop them up and you sacrifice them. When I talk to young girls who have disturbed relationships with their fathers, they like to chatter with me, they like to prop me up, they like to get my attention, but they never want to know anything about me. It's narcissistic. Why?